Elizabeth loved the theatre, but some plays were as much about politics as entertainment. Most dangerous was Shakespeare's Richard II, which dealt with the making and the unmaking of a king.
I give this heavy weight from off my head. With mine own hands, I give away my crown. With mine own tongue, deny my sacred state. All pomp and majesty I do forswear. My acts, decrees, and statutes I deny. God save King Henry, unkinged Richard says, and send him many years of sunshine days.
The play tells the story of the deposition of the rightful anointed king, Richard II, by Henry Bolingbroke, his cousin and the military hero. Elizabeth identified herself passionately with the deposed king. "I am Richard II, know ye not that," she's supposed to have said. She also thought that there were many potential Bolingbroks around. Robert Cecil and the Earl of Essex told her to her face that they worshipped her. Behind her back, they were looking to the future after her death. And, Elizabeth sometimes feared, they were plotting to depose her, just like Richard II. When Shakespeare's play was printed the following year, the deposition scene had been cut from the text. We can guess that the author and his publisher were given hints that they'd been wise enough to take. A new tragedy, bloodier than anything in Shakespeare, was now unfolding in Ireland. In August 1598, at Yellow Ford in Ulster, Irish rebels ambushed a column of English soldiers and cut them to pieces. "1,200 men lay dead or dying. It was the worst military defeat of Elizabeth's reign. The Catholic Irish had long resented the occupation of their country by Protestant England. There had been rebellions before, but this one was much more dangerous. It had the support of Spain. King Philip II was dead, but his son had inherited his father's zeal to be avenged for the defeats of Cadiz and the Armada. He planned to land troops in Ireland and to threaten England across the Irish Sea. The Queen would have to act. In spring of 1599, the largest English army of Elizabeth's reign landed on the east coast of Ireland. In command was her half-disgraced favourite, the Earl of Essex, who had pestered the Queen until she gave him the post. He wished to rehabilitate himself in the Queen's favour. He also wanted to show that he was a real soldier, able to draw his sword on the Queen's enemies, just as he'd half drawn it on the Queen herself. But the first use that Essex made of his sword in Ireland was to employ it to usurp the Queen's kingly prerogatives by knighting, in defiance of Elizabeth's explicit instructions, 38 of his captains. Turning his sword against the Queen's enemies proved more of a challenge. For months, Elizabeth received little news from Ireland, and she became increasingly frustrated at Essex's failure to engage the enemy.
If sickness in the army be the reason, why was not the action undertaken when the army was in a better state? If winter's approach, why were the summer months of July and August lost? If the spring were too soon and the summer that followed otherwise spent, then surely we must conclude that none of the 4 quarters of the year will be in season for you.
But Essex did not meet his enemy in battle. Instead, he and the rebel leader, the Earl of Tyrone, had a secret rendezvous near Carrickmacross. They talked for half an hour, alone and out of earshot of their officers. Then they parted on good terms. After 6 months in Ireland, Essex had spent £300,000 and lost 12,000 men to disease and desertion. That was incompetence. Now he had made a secret deal with the rebel leader, the sworn enemy of the Queen. That was close to treason. Her reservations about her young courtiers began to look justified. They could not be trusted. Robert Cecil began a secret correspondence with James VI of Scotland. He had taken it upon himself to pave the way for James's succession to the English throne, thereby ensuring his own continuance in office. At first sight, it seems an extraordinary idea. England and Scotland were old enemies, and Elizabeth had executed James's mother, Mary Stuart. But James was the obvious heir. He was Elizabeth's closest male relative. He was an experienced ruler. He was a Protestant, and he already had 2 sons. Cecil told James if he accepted his advice and guidance, he could expect a peaceful accession to Elizabeth's throne. But Cecil had to proceed with care. The Queen had never named a successor and had banned all talk of the matter at court. The secret must be carefully kept.
He must have worried about security in London, but I imagine that he would have been much more worried about security in Edinburgh. James I was of England, and VI of Scotland was notoriously indiscreet. And, of course, he was surrounded by some fairly loose-mouthed people. So it was important, I think, for him to use code and trustworthy messengers. He would never know whether the Queen, if she did find out officially, wouldn't have blown her top and sacked him. And secondly, of course, it was a splendid opportunity for his enemies to accuse him of treason and treating with a foreign power.